I'm having a bad day today, too. Thank you. Gettysburg Address. Reciting the Gettysburg Address this year will be Morgan Graves.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We've come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here, to the unfinished work which they who fought here, at thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth and freedom, that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
Morgan is the daughter of Allison and Adam Graves. She has a younger brother, Michael, and a sister, Madison. In school, she loves science. She is very interested in acting and dancing, has performed in plays, and is part of the Fairmount Dance Company. Due to her father's business, she has traveled extensively throughout the world. She's lived in Switzerland, Canada, Colombia, and is fluent in Spanish. She feels all of her travel has enhanced her learning and life. Like Lauren, she is a member of the Cadet Girl Scout Group 70878. Morgan, the American Legion Post 383, has something for you. All right, before we have our main speaker, I want to share just a little story with you. I've spent most of my life in Chagrin Falls, as many of you have, and I've always felt the community connections around the observance of Memorial Day. Whether it's the windows that Jack Schutz creates in the hardware store or Joyce Teff creates on some of the stores along North Main Street, or the flowers that John Tillotson places around the memorial at the post office for Michael Kashkus. Our community remembers and respects the sacrifices of its veterans. But to me, it's also the connections that are interesting. The connections that occur when you get into our village and the people in our village. When Jack Schutz found out I would be officiating a Memorial Day a number of years ago, he offered me this tie. He knew that I had an interest in the Civil War, and this tie depicts a Civil War battle. Jack had gotten the tie from Ralph Beatty. Ralph had purchased it many years ago because of his interest in the Civil War, and he was going to offer it up in the annual Methodist Church rummage sale, but he thought Jack might like it because Jack also likes the Civil War, so he gave it to Jack. And Jack gave it to me. The battle on this depicted on this tie is Shiloh. Buried behind me over the hill is George Hodges. George is the great-great-grandfather of one of my high school classmates, Pat Hodges, and her sister Helen. George was a sergeant in the 41st Ohio Volunteer Infantry who fought at Shiloh. When the Chagrin boys went off to fight in the Civil War, they did so out of love for their country. Duty, honor, country. Many believed it would be over quickly and they would be home quickly. George wrote to his wife passionately about the horrors of war and the realization that it was not going to be over quickly. He talked about men being mowed down like grass before a mower. When we originally worked to mark every Civil War veteran's grave here a few years ago, George didn't have a stone. So we were able to get a stone. We knew where his resting place was. We were able to get a stone. We had a military stone made, and every year after that, we place a flag by it. I take a picture of the flag and the stone. I send it to Pat in Florida and Helen in Michigan. Now we find that another Chagrin boy, Captain Bo Johns, has a connection to Shiloh. The guided missile cruiser that he commanded was named after that battle. Captain Johns is a graduate of Chagrin Falls High School, class of '91. He gained acceptance into the United States Military Academy, graduating in 1995. Upon commissioning, he was selected to attend the University of Heidelberg in Germany, where he studied mathematics and operations research. He holds a master's degree in engineering management from Old Dominion University. A career service warfare officer, Captain John's initial at-sea assignments were first lieutenant on a guided missile cruiser, machinery division officer. He had a number of different assignments, and then he was the executive officer and then commanding officer of the USS Stockdale, a guided missile destroyer. Then he was the reactor officer on the USS Ronald Reagan, the nuclear aircraft carrier. He commanded the USS Shiloh, the guided missile cruiser in Yokosuka, Japan, before serving as the Chief of Staff for Carrier Strike Group 5. Since April 2021, he has served as a Deputy Commandant for Professional Development at the United States Naval Academy. It's an honor to have a Chagrin boy who is still in the military to speak to us today, Captain Bo Johns.
On September 10th, 1867, the townspeople of Chagrin gathered right here on this very spot to dedicate this Civil War memorial. Miss Janie Church, sister of the famous artist Henry Church Jr., who sculpted Squaw Rock, was given the honor of dedicating the memorial. She had been a leader in the Chagrin Falls Soldiers Aid Society, which was dedicated to give care and comfort to the sick and wounded soldier. The organization had been established in 1861 after the outbreak of the war, and then after the war in 1865, they broke up. And its remaining balance of $134 was applied to a future memorial. Eventually, that sum would grow to $1,350, which was short of their goal but enough to erect this impressive monument. In her remarks, Ms. Church offered thoughts that are worth considering even more than 150 years later. Of this monument, she said, "May it be protected and cared for in such a manner that those friends and surviving comrades of the deceased who may visit this ground in future years shall feel assured that the feeling of gratitude which prompted it remains as abiding sentiment within the people of Chagrin Falls." Based on the long tradition of this ceremony and the fact so many people are here today, it's safe to say that you, the people of Chagrin Falls, are more than meeting Ms. Church's charge. As Mr. Borisow said, my name is Bo Johns, and I am a Chagrin native and currently serve as the Director of Professional Development at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis. I would like to thank American Legion Post 383, Commander Gretschko, and Mr. Borisow for asking me to be here today to speak to all of you. I'm a 1991 graduate of Chagrin, and we just held our 30th plus one reunion. That's right. And it's awesome to see so many of my classmates here today. My mother, Karen, is a class of 1960 graduate. My sister Heidi, an 88 grad. My brother-in-law Tom, an 85 grad. And my nephew Charlie just graduated with the class of 22. And his younger brother Will is in the class of 25. Chagrin is clearly a part of me, which is why I feel so privileged to be here. And why I feel so much pressure right now to be here as well. Not only are there many friends and families here, but there's some of my old teachers here as well. And in fact, I'm sitting right next to one with Coach Pea. And even though we've lost some of the other great influences on my generation the past few years, like Tom Mattern, Glenn Wyville, Lenny Balk, and my uncle, Coach John Hurst, we certainly feel their presence among us. So back to why we are here, why we gather on this hallowed ground, just as similar ceremonies are taking place across the country right now. With so many Americans stopping and coming together just as schools are letting out and summer is kicking off, surely this day, Memorial Day, must carry more meaning and have a greater effect than we realize. In fact, I think there are 4 reasons that make this ceremony so significant. First, and most importantly, is of course the opportunity as citizens to express our gratitude for those who sacrificed to preserve the freedoms that make our country so special. We know that combat is not a video game with a reset button, and not everybody comes home. Pausing and acknowledging the price they paid is how we say thank you. Which leads to the second reason why this is important. It reinforces the bond between our society and the military. Our country places a special trust and confidence in the armed forces, with surveys annually holding the military among the most trusted organizations in American culture. And Americans' faith in the military is built upon the deeds of those we honor today, who held up to their oath to support and defend the Constitution and to serve their nation honorably. But that trust is fragile, and should the military betray the public's faith, it could take decades to recover, or worse yet, it might be lost forever. It's important our military understands that bond. The good news is that there is a playbook for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines to sustain and even strengthen that trust. Follow the example of their predecessors. And that is the third reason why it's important to have a ceremony like this. It cements in those serving today the legacy formed by the generations who served before them. I did not understand the power and importance of this legacy until I started teaching an ethics class, which is a requirement for all sophomores at the Naval Academy. As part of the class, we examine justice in war, and we learn how warrior cultures develop guidelines on how to act in battle. They establish unwritten rules far more powerful than any law or regulation, and they pass this code down, this legacy down, from one generation to the next. And we call this code, this legacy, these rules, the code of the warrior. And historical examples abound. Just think of the Spartans in ancient Greece, or the samurai in Japan, or, for the younger crowd, the Mandalorian. This is the way. Former Secretary of Defense and Marine Corps General James Mattis summarized the power of this legacy in his simple one-page guidance to 1st Marine Division on the eve of the Iraq War in 2003. He wrote, "For the mission's sake, for our country's sake, and the sake of the men who carried the division's colors in past battles, who fought for life and never lost their nerve, carry out your mission and keep your honor clean." It is in this legacy that our service members today can find the courage to do the right thing in the heat of battle under circumstances we cannot begin to imagine. In doing so, they may pay the ultimate sacrifice. Yet they can rest peacefully, knowing they have served honorably and made their countrymen proud. So proud, in fact, that we may gather on a beautiful morning in May to remember their noble deeds and hold them up as inspiration. And that is the fourth and final reason why we gather here today: to find purpose in our own lives. Back in 1867, Miss Church expressed that very sentiment when she so eloquently said to the crowd, "And may the memories of this hour inspire us to dedicate ourselves with renewed fidelity to those principles for which they fought and died. Thus shall we most honor and render undying the memory of the American soldier." Thank you very much for coming today and remembering these incredible patriots. And thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts. May God bless the souls of those we remember, and may God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo. Post Commander Thomas Gretschko has a token of our appreciation for you. We at Post, in the American Legion, we like to present a grateful appreciation medal to Captain Bo Johns. It says, "In recognition of successful overseas duty in the service of the United States Navy and for exemplary performance as a surface warfare officer." It's presented by Chagrin Falls Post 383, the 30th of May, 2022, signed by Thomas Gretschko, Commander, and Ted E. Root, Vice Commander, with the inscription on the bottom, "For God and Country," which is the American Legion motto and is also a famous quote from who? George Washington. Thank you very much, Captain.
Thank you very much. I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Our honor to have you here. Now for the benediction, Reverend Simone.
Will you please rise for the benediction? And now may the God of peace, who brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus Christ, that great shepherd of the sheep, be with you always in peace and understanding, as we bring memory to those who have fallen. Go in peace, my friends. Amen.
Please remain standing if you can. Our soloist will now lead us in God Bless America. Thank you, Claire and Isabel. If you could remain standing. 105 years ago, the procession to Evergreen Hill Cemetery on Memorial Day was preceded by a boat filled with flower petals. At the close of the ceremony, the children of the village would spread the petals over the graves of the veterans. In this past year, we have lost 4 veterans whose names I will mention. Following of the reading of their names, there will be 3 cannon blasts that represent duty, honor, and country. Donald Wygant, United States Army. Don Baraball, United States Navy. Gil Plavkin, United States Marine Corps. John Klein, United States Air Force. Duty. Honor. Country. Color guard, dismiss the colors. Thank you, and that concludes our ceremony.